There comes a point in everyone's career when they come to a crossroads. A junction between focusing on something consistent, long-term, safe, or creating a legacy in something new, scary, but the future. The opportunity to follow in the likes of Wayne Gretzky, Pele, Roy Halladay, Tom Brady, or Michael Jordan. To only leave when your name invokes a love of the game, no matter what the sport. What's more difficult is naming traditional sports teams whose names inspire a similar passion. Perhaps Real Madrid or Manchester United. Perhaps the Dallas Cowboys, considering only that they're America's team. In Counter-Strike, one of the few teams to transcend the early beginnings of the scene and enter legendary status is Ninjas in Pyjamas. One of the beauties of esports lies in that teams are not geocentric. An organization's potential only begins at where the team is based or where the majority of the roster is from. Fans can come from anywhere and any walk of life, and the longer an organization exists, the further it will reach. The Ninjas first put on their pajamas way back at the turn of the millennium. The end of the world had just passed in Y2K. Prince was pissed that 1999 no longer earned him massive royalties, and CS 1.6 was the game of the age. Founded by Swedish icons Emil Heaton Christensen and Tommy Potty Ingmarsson, the team would see immediate success at many CPL events, including a $50,000 win at CPL Winter in 2001. But it was the early days of esports, and the NIP name would quickly disappear, with the roster moving over to SK Gaming. Around 4 years would pass before the Ninjas in Pyjamas experiments would reappear with the SK Gaming roster, returning to compete under the NIP name. Fast forward to 2012, CSGO is released, and with that, a shift in the Counter-Strike community's game of choice. And after a second, almost 5-year hiatus, NIP sprung out from the shadows again, with Heaton announcing that the organisation would return with a global offensive roster. Little did he know, the roster would become one of the most renowned teams in the history of esports. NIP 3.0 begins with the organisation signing Get Right from SK Gaming alongside Forest, Exist from Fnatic, and Freiburg from CS Source. The team would see almost immediate success at DreamHack Valencia 2012, taking down another big name in France's very games in the grand final.
Still alive, inside, behind, he's able to take out one, they get two, picks up three! 3 kills with
the team would continue to build on this success, lifting trophies at ESWC 2012, DreamHack Winter, and the AMD Sapphire Invitational, all of which they would leave Very Games in second place. At the time, this was one of the biggest rivalries within esports. Very Games were no doubt a stellar team, but somehow they just couldn't beat the Ninjas in the early stages of the title. What's crazy is that during the Swedish-French rivalry, the Ninjas in Pyjamas would do something truly remarkable and go unbeaten in 87 matches. This would be like playing the English Premier League for over 2 years and not losing a single game. Arsenal's Invincibles put 2 seasons on the trot. It was huge, and is now considered impossible considering the modern day game.
And this kind of streak will never be repeated in CS, or probably in any game ever.
It would take place over 8 months, ending in April 2013 via a defeat to Virtus Pro at StarLadder Series 5.
He loses this one round, and that's gonna be it. 16-14. They lose the first map. Virtus Pro, the first team in history to beat NIP on LAN.
One loss wouldn't be the end of NIP. They would continue to be heralded a top team, and home to number 1 and 2 players in the world, Get Right and Forest. The end of 2013 would close out with the first ever Valve CSGO Major, hosted at DreamHack Winter, home soil for the Swedes. Cruising through the group stage, NIP's first hurdle would be LGB Esports, another Swedish side featuring Olofmeister, Kruns and Dennis. A close 2-1 series, an NIP victory would see them face arch rivals Very Games in the semis. History would repeat, with NIP the superior force taking the Frenchmen down 2-1.
7 seconds left! Gerright's done it! He just went absolutely huge!
The first major, taking place in Sweden, would feature 2 Swedish teams. Never had there been so much on the line for 2 organisations. Not only a world title, but the love and admiration for their country. It would start off close. Fnatic would take Dust 2 in a nail-biter, 16-14, but the Ninjas struck back on Inferno. It all came down to the final map, but sadly, NIP would get dissected 16-2 by their hometown rivals.
There it is, they win it, and look at the even Khan jumping up, one of the most composed people I think in Counter-Strike. Complete celebration, what a victory. And
the next major, this time in Katowice, Poland, would see another grand final appearance for the Ninjas, this time Virtus.pro on the other side of the server. Yet still, NIP would fail to seal the deal, with VP taking the title on home soil. ESL One Cologne 2014 would host the next iteration of the major, with NIP returning where they'd left off. It wouldn't be an easy journey with a group loss and an extremely tight 2-1 quarterfinal and semis against Cloud9 and LDLC. For the third time in a row, Ninjas had made it to a major semi-final, with the Cologne Massive witnessing NIP and Fnatic go head-to-head. It was time for NIP to turn their heartbreak into redemption. With a major title, expectations for NIP remained high, only to be quickly dashed. The first sign of cracks came in the departure of 5th Lauren only months post-major win, leaving the team struggling to find a 5th. The core four of Forest, Get Right, Exist and Freiburg would stick together, looking to recreate that same magic. Trialling Makalele, then Alu, followed by Pith, then Draken in 2017. Nothing would recreate that same ungodly form as the era of 87-0. The real low for the Ninjas came after the Cologne 2016 major. Here, they would fail to re-qualify for the major for the first time ever.
There's only one left. Calyx will finish a 16-5. They managed one better than they did yesterday, but they have been obliterated.
Meaning for the first major of 2017, they would have to attempt to make it to Atlanta through the offline qualifier. It was here that the infamous Vega Squadron game would go down. For both teams, it was their final lifeline. And in an unthinkable turn of events, Vega Squadron would knock out NIP's 16-2. This would be the start of NIP's major slump. They'd failed to qualify for the next major in Krakow, and then again for the 2018 Boston major. It was a downward spiral for the Ninjas, and something that many would never have imagined for such an iconic team. Then came the FACEIT London Minors. July 2018 would see up-and-coming teams try their luck to grace the stage in London. Included in one of these teams were NIP, trying for their fourth time to make it back to a major. They'd pull out of their group 2-1, taking down Red Reserve in a best-of-1 and in a best-of-3. Moving into the lower bracket, they take down Sprout 2-1, then Ents 2-0, until they finally faced Optic as their decider. Optic had been showing solid form during the minor, and had already taken down the Swedes earlier in the tournament to knock them down into the lower bracket. But the Swedes weren't about to let them do it all over again. They'd been fighting for this spot for years since they'd last played in Cologne 2016, and it was about to swing in their way once again. In an emotional victory, NIP would make it once again to the major. After re-qualifying for the major, however, NIP still wouldn't recreate those same dominant results we saw all those years ago. They'd finished 9th to 11th in London, and won better in Katowice as they placed 5th to 8th. But they'd still failed to lift any first place trophies, and change was brewing. The core four had been gradually departing since NIP's decline from the top. Freiburg in 2017 to Optic, Exist in 2018 to FaZe, and one more huge change was about to come.
I played this game for 20 years. Lived and breathed this game for such a long time. It means the world to me to just be standing here. I can't really get out the words that I'm feeling right now, but I'm just super happy to be here still. I didn't know this would be so painful for me, but I'm just very happy that still people are supporting me.
Get Right would step down from the team in September 2019. And although many speculated that this move was about to come, was still a huge shock to the fan base. Christopher had only ever spent his time playing CSGO on NIP. It truly was an end of an era. But it certainly wasn't going to be the end of NIP as an organisation. They have been injecting young, new blood into the team, with the two most recent additions being Twist and Plopsky. Having taken first place during the second week of ECS Season 8 Europe, the Ninjas will be rebounding to make their second appearance at the Esports Stadium Arlington, and perhaps kickstart their road back to the top.